Jack didn't cry right away. He sat there with the little paper crown still on his head, a handmade card for his grandmother clutched in both hands, while wrapping paper flew around the room like confetti in a war zone. His cousin Lily squealed. Something about the camera quality, the apps, the screen protector already installed, and everyone clapped like trained seals. Nobody noticed Jack hadn't moved. Until he did. He stood up, took the crown off, and walked to the kitchen. No tantrum, no pout, just a quiet shuffle, like he was looking for somewhere to shrink into. I found him 10 minutes later, sitting on the floor next to the dog bowl, staring at nothing in particular. His eyes were glassy but dry, the way only kids who've learned not to make noise when they hurt can manage. I crouched beside him. "Hey, you okay?" He nodded, then asked, "Was I bad?" That one split me open in a way I didn't even flinch for anymore. I'd endured years of being the designated driver, the emergency contact, the guy who paid for the Airbnb and never got the big bedroom. But this was a new cut. I told him no, of course not, and hugged him tight. But something in me, something old and quiet, shifted. Back in the living room, nobody noticed we were gone. My sister was showing off some smartwatch she accidentally received, while Mom beamed like a Christmas angel, made entirely of passive aggression and control issues. We all agreed. "No gifts this year," she'd said in that sugary tone that makes your stomach sour. Everyone agreed, she reminded us. And then Lily pulled the ribbon off a box with her name on it and screamed so loud I thought someone had died. But no one had. Not yet. I looked around the room, at the decorations I paid for, the food I'd prepped the night before, the wine I brought that my brother-in-law was already draining without a word of thanks. Jack's seat was still empty. No one asked where he went. That's when I made the decision. Not loudly. Not in some performative way. Just a flick of a switch deep inside. A silent promise. The kind of promise men like me keep. Later that night, after Megan and Jack went to bed, I sat at the dining table alone and stared at the empty wine glasses. One still had lipstick on the rim. I opened my laptop. My hands didn't even hesitate. First, Netflix. Family plan canceled. Then Spotify. My sister's playlist would stop mid-song the next time she went jogging. Disney Plus, Hulu, Apple One gone. I logged into the family phone plan. Removed 3 users. Changed the password. Locked the account with a new PIN code I didn't write down. I canceled a Prime subscription that delivered my niece's makeup boxes each month like clockwork. Canceled Kindle sharing. Audible too. I wasn't angry. I was methodical. Jack didn't get a gift. So this was my gift to everyone else. Silence. Look, if this story hits something in you, if you've ever been that dad, that quiet guy in the background holding everything together, take a second and hit subscribe. I know more than 97% of you listen without subscribing, but it helps the team keep going. And frankly, we've got a lot more stories to tell. I closed my laptop that night with a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. Not joy, not revenge. Just a small, steady reclamation of my own goddamn life. And not a single soul in that house suspected what was already unraveling beneath them. I didn't sleep, but not out of rage. There was no pacing, no muttering. Just stillness, like I'd entered a different weather system, and the forecast was finally in my favor. Megan didn't ask why I stayed up. She knows me well enough to read my silence. I waited until the house settled into that post-holiday hush. Wrapping paper in trash bags, the last wine glass air-drying, the thermostat humming like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something small, quiet, and permanent. I powered up my laptop and started with Netflix. The family plan had my mother, sister, niece, and somehow my cousin's husband. I didn't even know he watched movies. Removed them all. Left just me, Megan, and Jack. I changed the password to something absurd. 15 characters of pettiness that no one would guess unless they remembered the name of the stuffed bear Jack slept with when he was 3, which they wouldn't, because they never asked. Spotify was next. My sister's playlist was easy to spot, pink hearts, 2000s throwbacks, passive-aggressive breakup anthems. Gone. Disney Plus. Megan and I never used it, but Jack liked the classics. The others just used it because I paid for the premium ad-free plan. Gone. I opened the Verizon portal. 3 extra lines. Mom, sis, and my niece. All under me. All set up in 2017 when my sister cried about being between jobs. And Mom said, "It's just temporary." Apparently, 8 years of temporary includes unlimited data and overseas roaming. Line by line, I revoked access. Sent the termination notices with zero emotion, just a slight click of the mouse. Then I changed the security pin, reset the email backup, and added 2FA to a burner account. It was surgical, quiet, and not even a little bit vengeful. Just mine again. I took a break halfway through to make tea. Not whiskey, tea. That's how calm I was. In the pantry, I spotted the chocolate I always bought for Jack. Dark, 70%, his favorite, and realized it had been opened. The corner ripped, not cut, and the whole thing was half gone. He'd been saving it for weeks. That did it. I added Prime Video to the kill list. Then Audible, Kindle sharing, iCloud storage. Even the shared Canva account my niece used for her college business. Deleted. Not one of them had ever offered to split the costs. Not once. But I knew if I had brought it up, I'd be the petty one. The ungrateful son. The dramatic brother. Now, I wasn't saying anything. I was simply letting go. By the time the sun hinted through the blinds, the damage was complete. Except it wasn't damage. It was pruning. Megan came downstairs as I was closing the laptop. She gave me a look, half curiosity, half quiet solidarity, and poured coffee into my mug without asking. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just unsubscribing," I said. She smiled. "Finally." "Yep." We didn't say much after that. We didn't have to. Some things don't need fireworks. Just a password change. They wouldn't know it yet. But something had shifted. And like all entitled people, they'd assume it was a glitch. A tech issue. A weird coincidence. Good. Let them. Let them call customer service. Let them reset passwords. Let them Google why their shared library is gone. Let them wonder why things feel just a little different. And let them figure out, slowly, that the guy who kept everything running didn't announce he was done. He just was. 3 days later, the fog began to lift. Not for me, but for them. It started with a text at 6:43 a.m., which in family speak is code for, "I'm pretending not to be panicking." It was from my sister, of course. "Hey, did your HBO kick me off? It's asking me to subscribe again, lol." The LOL was doing Olympic-level heavy lifting. I stared at it while sipping my coffee. The same mug I'd used for 10 years. Chipped on the handle. Best dad ever, faded from hundreds of dishwasher cycles. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I took a screenshot and archived it. Not out of spite, just documentation. Old habit from my corporate days. 3 hours later, a Facebook comment under a generic family post from my niece. "Ugh, my phone's not syncing the cloud again. WTF. She didn't tag me, but she didn't have to. I knew what she meant. Her iCloud storage had been running on my family plan since she turned 13. She's 19 now. She just bought a ring light and calls herself a brand consultant. Then came the email. Subject: Kindle? From Mom. To Daniel. Date: Wednesday, 11:12 a.m. Dan, my Kindle says invalid account when I try to open my books. Is this something on your end? Love, Mom. No accusations. Not yet. Just a gentle prod wrapped in maternal guilt. The type that would usually make me roll over and offer a fix within seconds. I typed back one sentence. Check with your provider. And hit send. No signature. No explanation. Not even a smiley face. That afternoon, silence. Which was rare. My phone normally pinged with group chats, discount codes, password reset links. Suddenly, nothing. The absence was loud. I imagined the chain reaction. My niece texting my sister calling my mother drafting something long and emotionally manipulative about how we're all just trying our best. I could practically hear the group chat typing bubbles gasping in unison. But I was out. I took Jack to the park after dinner. He asked if we were doing anything with the family next weekend. I said, "Not this time." He didn't look sad. He just nodded. "Can we go get ramen again then?" "Absolutely." On the drive home, my phone buzzed. Another text from my sister. "Just say if you changed something." Not mad, just confused. I didn't answer. That's the thing about being the quiet one in a family. They think your silence is agreement. That your absence from a fight means you're neutral. That your willingness to keep the peace is weakness. They never imagine you're watching everything. Remembering. They definitely don't expect you to act. I pictured my niece scrolling through her phone, swiping through apps that no longer loaded. I imagined my mother poking at her Kindle, adjusting her glasses, and frowning at the screen. My sister probably tried the old password 3 times before resetting the Wi-Fi router out of desperation. and I just kept doing the dishes. Peacefully. Almost joyfully. Not a word more. Just one subtle ripple at a time. If they thought the subscriptions were the problem, they hadn't yet realized they'd lost something far more valuable. Access. Megan brought it up while folding laundry. Not a dramatic confrontation. Not the usual TV style we need to talk. Just a quiet sentence. Slipped between 2 towels and a sock without a pair. You've been paying for all that? I didn't look up. Just kept folding. For years. She didn't ask why. Megan doesn't do performative outrage. She just nodded slowly and went still the way she does when she's counting something in her head. Not numbers but implications. Megan's brain does algebra with people's patterns. You can see it behind her eyes. This plus this, divided by loyalty, multiplied by time equals what? How much? I shrugged again. A few here, a few there. It adds up. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just kept folding. The rhythm of it became almost meditative. Like she was processing each bill I'd eaten without acknowledgement. Each subscription I justified because it's just easier this way. Every Amazon order shipped to someone else's house because I had the Prime. You ever think about stopping it before? She asked. Plenty of times. I said. Didn't feel worth the drama. She paused with a t-shirt in her hand. Jack's, the one with the faded Millennium Falcon on the front. Her thumb traced the cracked design like it was a memory. But it felt worth it now? I looked at her then. Not defensively. Just honestly. He asked if he was bad. That was all it took. That night, after Jack went to bed and I was in the kitchen stacking the leftovers into Tupperware like some kind of post-holiday game of emotional Tetris, I heard Megan typing. Not furiously. Deliberately. She was sitting at the kitchen island, her laptop open to our shared Google Calendar. The one where every birthday, every brunch, every mom's doctor appointment and Lily's recital and family barbecue bring ice was color-coded and automatically synced to my phone. It was the invisible leash they didn't even know they had on me. She hovered over it for a moment, then clicked, delete. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? She clicked yes without blinking. No dramatics. No announcement. Just a small, precise removal of obligation. I'll keep Jack's stuff in my own calendar from now on, she said. I nodded. Sounds good. It was the quietest act of rebellion I'd ever seen. And it meant more than any confrontation ever could. Because Megan had never asked me to stop. Never pushed. Never made it her fight. She just watched. Waited. And when she saw the line finally crossed, she pulled back everything she'd once offered to hold. I thought about all the times my family had assumed she'd handle the invites. That she'd remind me about Mom's birthday or RSVP to things we weren't even invited to properly. They'd never thanked her. They'd never even noticed how much she buffered. And now she wasn't buffering anything. I opened a beer and sat beside her in silence. We watched something dumb on TV. Jack had fallen asleep on the couch, curled up with the dog, and I let my hand rest on her knee. She didn't look at me, didn't smile, didn't make it a moment. But I could feel it in the room. That permission they'd always had to take from me, from her, from Jack. It was gone. Quietly, efficiently, and completely. They hadn't even heard it leave. It came in the form of a group text from my sister. Subject line: Family chat. Urgent red heart. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, she followed up directly. We just want to talk. Clear the air. No pressure. Just a Zoom link if you're free. Love you. That love you was weaponized nostalgia. A polite layer of sugar over the control she thought she still had. I showed Megan the message. She just raised an eyebrow. You going? Yeah, I said. I think I'll listen. When I clicked the link that evening, I was greeted by the usual Brady Bunch screen. Mom in her pastel turtleneck and pearls, perched in the kitchen like an aging sitcom matriarch. My sister, makeup on and expression tight, already talking before the Zoom fully connected. My brother-in-law lounging in a gaming chair with zero intention of speaking. My niece on her phone, half visible, chewing gum like she was doing us all a favor. I muted myself and waited. This just feels a bit aggressive, Daniel, my sister said. We all make sacrifices. We all contribute what we can. And if something was bothering you, you could have just said something. Mom jumped in with her soft voice. We're just concerned. The Kindle. The phones. Lily's apps. A lot of disruption. And at the holidays, no less. Yes, disruption. The one word they reserve for moments when their comfort is interrupted. I unmuted. Let me show you something. I shared my screen. It opened on an Excel sheet. Nothing flashy. Just dates, names, categories, dollar amounts, color-coded in rows that stretched back 15 years. Subscription start dates, monthly totals, Christmas receipts. Emergency transfers labeled things like Lily's Braces Fund or Mom's Deductible Urgent. Every dollar, every free ride, every just this once. 15 years of invisible support turned visible in 5 seconds. I didn't say anything. My sister blinked. What is this? A record, I replied. Just mine. Silence. Mom leaned closer to her camera, squinting like the data might change under pressure. I didn't know you were keeping tabs, she said carefully. No one ever asked, I said. You just assumed I'd keep giving. I did. My brother-in-law shifted but still didn't speak. Then, like divine timing, Jack wandered into the room behind me. He was holding a bowl of popcorn and humming some tune from a video game. He looked at the screen, saw the family lineup, and paused. Oh, he said. My sister perked up. Hey, Jack. He gave a polite wave, then turned to me. Is this about Christmas? I nodded. He looked back at the screen, tone flat. I'm glad we don't do gifts. That stunned them into another silence. You could hear the Wi-Fi buzzing. Why's that? Mom asked gently. Jack shrugged. They wouldn't have gotten me one anyway. I didn't prompt him, didn't coach him. That was pure, unfiltered truth from a boy who saw more than he said. And there it was, the emotional knife in the middle of their spreadsheet shame. He walked away as casually as he entered. I left the screen shared for another few seconds. Then I said, I'm not angry, just done. And clicked, leave meeting. The screen faded to black, but their faces stayed burned into my mind. Equal parts confusion, guilt, and, most importantly, realization. They didn't know what to do with it. For the first time, I wasn't defending myself. I was just done talking. She showed up without calling, as if proximity to my childhood gave her some kind of eternal open-door policy. Same beige sedan she's had since Lily was in diapers. Parked half-cocked across the edge of our driveway like she was afraid of committing to even that. She knocked like it was Sunday dinner and I'd forgotten to set the table. 3 sharp raps and a pause that dripped with expectation. Megan saw her first through the peephole and gave me a look I hadn't seen in years. Not fear. Not hostility. Just a quiet warning. Your past is on the porch. Handle it how you want. I opened the door and didn't say a word. She didn't smile. That was new. No faux warmth. No high-pitched hello. Just a tight expression and a cardigan that probably smelled like cinnamon and denial. I wanted to talk in person, she said. I held the door open, just enough for her to decide how far she was willing to reach. She didn't step in. That too was new. Her hands were clutching her purse, knuckles white. We didn't mean to exclude Jack, she began. It was meant to be a surprise. Lily had been asking for it for months. I didn't think. You didn't think? I echoed flatly. She winced. That's not what Daniel, come on. You know we love Jack. Sure, I said. In the way you love background music. Comfortable when it doesn't interfere. Her jaw tightened, but she kept going. We thought we'd all agreed. No gifts. But you know how your sister is. She doesn't mean harm. And maybe we should've. I held up a hand. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't step forward. Just turned and retrieved the paper I'd printed earlier that morning because, somewhere deep down, I knew this visit was coming. It was a single page. A bank statement. My name at the top, bold and irrefutable. One line highlighted in yellow. Monthly family plan, $284.77. I handed it to her like I was offering a menu. She stared at it, blinked, then read it again. It's been 8 years, I said quietly. Every month. You never noticed. You never asked. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. Not with anger, but with precision. But he did. That landed. The phrase hung between us like smoke from a candle that had just been snuffed out. She looked up, eyes glistening now, but I wasn't offering her a soft place to fall. Jack had noticed. That Christmas morning when he got nothing. When Lily screamed with joy and Mom applauded. When no one even glanced at him. He noticed. She stepped back slightly, the paper still in her hands. I didn't mean. You didn't mean, I said. But you did. And now it means something. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an apology. I didn't explain. I simply closed the door. Not fast. Not slow. Just final. Megan didn't ask what she said. She didn't need to. I dropped the second copy of the same statement onto the counter and left it there. Jack came into the room a few minutes later, holding a model spaceship we'd been building for days. He didn't mention the knock. Didn't ask who it was. He just said, "Can we finish the wing part now?" "Yeah," I said. "Let's finish it." And we did, without interruption. Without apology. Without anyone calling to say they forgot something, or needed a password, or wanted to borrow my account, just until they figured things out. For the first time in years, my house wasn't echoing with everyone else's needs. It was just quiet and honest. It began with Easter brunch, or rather, the invitation to it. "Hey, thinking you guys could bring deviled eggs and maybe do the centerpieces again? Everyone loved them last year." That was the text from my sister, sent at 8:04 a.m., as if the early hour would make it sound less like an assignment and more like a suggestion. I stared at it while Jack and I made pancakes. He flipped one with too much enthusiasm, batter landing on the stove, and we both laughed like it was a victory. I never replied. 3 days later, she followed up, "Just checking. Can you do eggs, or should I ask Mom?" I replied with 2 words. "Ask Mom." I didn't elaborate, didn't soften the edges, didn't offer to pick up something if needed. I just opted out. A door gently closed with no creak, no slam. After that came the dominoes. "Carpool for Lily?" I said no. Twice. No excuse, no explanation. Just, "We won't be able to." The third time she didn't ask. Planning the family reunion that summer? I was CC'd on an email chain about location ideas, potluck signups, t-shirt colors. I didn't respond. Megan didn't either. Eventually, we stopped getting updates. My mother tried to bait us back in. Sent a group chat message asking if we could host Thanksgiving this year. Something about tradition and everyone being comfortable at your place. I sent back a polite but firm, "Not this year." The group chat went silent for nearly a week. Then, like someone had flipped the switch off completely, the requests stopped. The calls stopped. The assumptions evaporated. One by one, they began to realize I wasn't playing the role anymore. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the default. I wasn't the bank, the tech support, the backup plan. And a funny thing happened. My house felt lighter. Not physically, there were still Legos under the couch and half-built model planes on the dining table, but spiritually. The air wasn't tense with unseen obligation. Megan started playing her records again. Music floating from room to room without being drowned by someone else's needs. Jack took over the front yard garden project and planted tomatoes and sunflowers. He named them. I never asked why. I just helped him water them. There were no more family reminders popping up on my phone. No more calendar invites with guilt disguised as tradition. No more half-hearted calls just to see how things are going before the real ask came in. Instead, there were Saturday mornings where no one expected anything from me. Sunday evenings without the creeping dread of another family favor lurking in Monday's inbox. I had always thought peace required a fight, a blow-up, a dramatic confrontation. Turns out it just required a sequence of well-placed, consistent no's. No, I won't drive across town for a birthday party I wasn't invited to until the night before. No, I won't Venmo you $150 for a group gift I had no say in choosing. No, I won't keep carrying the weight just because I'm strong enough not to complain about it. And with every no, I reclaimed a little more of myself. A little more of my time, my breath, my space. The family group chat didn't die. Calcified. From a daily stream of small demands and performative updates to a quiet, awkward archive of a system no longer working. Eventually, Megan left the chat. Jack was never in it to begin with. I muted it, and that was that. No apology, no ceremony, just silence. And in that silence, we found our rhythm. The morning came without a single calendar alert. No reminders, no coordination texts, no 9 a.m. photo from Mom of her Christmas table centerpiece, in progress. No demands for matching outfits or passive-aggressive questions about when we were planning to arrive. It was quiet. Jack woke up late, 10:15 a.m., and wandered into the kitchen in pajamas that didn't match. Megan was already flipping pancakes, wearing a robe and humming Sinatra. I was by the window, sipping coffee from the chipped #OneDad mug he gave me when he was 6. There wasn't a single wrapped box under the tree. But there was one gift leaning behind the couch. A beat-up Fender acoustic I'd found at a pawn shop 3 towns over. The guy who sold it to me said it had character, which is a nicer way of saying it's seen some things. The tuning pegs were stiff, the strap was frayed, and one of the frets had a dent so deep you could feel the story behind it. It was perfect. I didn't wrap it, just handed it to Jack while the smell of syrup and butter filled the house. He took it with both hands, reverent and wide-eyed. Not because it was expensive, it wasn't, but because it was his. Not borrowed, not shared, not filtered through family politics or budget spreadsheets. Just his. He plucked one string, winced, tuned it by ear the way I taught him. "I love it," he said simply. We ate pancakes at the coffee table while he strummed and Megan made up lyrics about syrup rivers and buttered skies. At some point, I picked up a shaker egg and tapped along. It was ridiculous, off-key, joyful. There were no FaceTime calls to interrupt the moment. No voice messages pretending to be casual while laced with guilt. No awkward Merry Christmas texts sent out of obligation, followed by radio silence. Just pancakes, music, and something else too. A sense that, for the first time, the holiday wasn't something we were enduring or performing for others. It was something we inhabited. There were no rules, no matching sweaters, no staged photos in front of someone else's fake fireplace. Jack didn't ask about Lily, or Grandma, or the cousin chaos that usually came with this day. He was too busy trying to figure out how to play Come As You Are from memory. Megan looked at me while he played, her eyes soft. "This is nice," she said. "Yeah," I said. "It really is." Later that afternoon, we put on a bad movie. Some old holiday comedy Jack picked just to laugh at the dated jokes, and fell asleep in a heap of blankets and dropped popcorn. When we woke up, it was dark outside. The tree lights blinked lazily. I heated up leftover pancakes for dinner. Jack played a clumsy but determined version of Jingle Bells, and Megan clapped like he was headlining Madison Square Garden. There was no toast, no pressure, no performance, just peace. The kind that creeps in slowly when you've cut away the noise. When you've stopped begging to be seen by people who only notice your absence when they need something. That night we went to bed early. No dishes stacked. No mess to clean up from other people. No resentments buried under holiday cheer. Just the soft ring of guitar strings still humming in my ears. And the strange, quiet satisfaction of knowing that Christmas, for once, didn't take anything from us. It gave something back. The envelope arrived in late January, after the Christmas decorations were boxed, after Jack's guitar had earned its own place in the living room corner, and after the family group chat had gone almost entirely dark. Came by regular mail, not email, not text. That alone told me it wasn't meant to be convenient. It was meant to feel intimate, deliberate. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. Cursive loops too wide, the lowercase e always half closed, like it was tired of finishing things. Daniel written in blue ink. No last name, no return address. Just Daniel, as if that word still belonged to her unchallenged. I didn't open it right away. I made coffee, took Jack to school, ran a few errands I didn't need to run. Then, when the house was quiet again, I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Megan had once deleted the family calendar, and opened the envelope with a butter knife, like I was dissecting an old scar. It was one sheet. No folded stationery. No family crest or dramatic appeal. Just one long, looping paragraph. Daniel, families make mistakes. We all do. Maybe we didn't show it enough, but we love you and we love Jack. It was never meant to feel like he wasn't part of us. People get it wrong sometimes, but that doesn't mean they don't care. We'd like to talk. Love, Mom. No demands. No real apologies either. Just a soft plea covered in a blanket of we. Not I. No ownership. Just collective vagueness. We'd like to talk. Funny how the people who always controlled the volume only want dialogue when you stop speaking. I turned the letter over. Nothing on the back. Nothing hidden. I stared at it for a long time, thinking about how many years I'd filled in their blanks. How many holidays I'd covered the emotional debts they didn't even know they owed. How often my silence had been mistaken for consent. And then, for the first time, I wrote something back. One line. No salutation. No date. No signature. You taught me to stay silent. I'm just listening now. I didn't put a return address on the envelope. I printed the address from memory, still etched into me like an old scar you forget is there until it rains, and dropped it in the mailbox on the corner. I didn't flag it, didn't track it, didn't even check to see when it arrived. Megan asked later if I'd heard back. I told her I hadn't. She didn't ask if I wanted to. That was the thing now, she understood. Without fanfare. Without analysis. She knew that sometimes the most powerful boundary isn't a locked door. It's a quiet one. One they're no longer allowed to knock on whenever guilt strikes. Jack didn't know about the letter. He didn't need to. He was too busy trying to learn a new song on his guitar. Something fast, clumsy, joyful. He laughed when he missed a note and kept going. I listened from the hallway. That single line I wrote still echoing in my head. I'm just listening now. And for once, it wasn't exhausting. It wasn't heavy. It was peace. Carved, not given. And I had no intention of filling the silence again. The snow had just started dusting the highway median when Jack leaned into the back seat and said, "You don't have to wait. I'll be okay." We just unloaded the last of his boxes. 2 duffel bags, a guitar case with the same frayed strap from 2 Christmases ago, and a small tote filled with snacks Megan insisted he bring, just in case the dining hall sucks. He looked taller against the dorm entrance, even though I knew he hadn't grown much. It was something in the way he stood, settled, braced but calm. Megan hugged him first, long and tight, whispered something I couldn't hear, and Jack nodded with that half-smile he saves just for her. Then he turned to me. I braced for a joke, or a quick, "Thanks, Dad," or something rushed to avoid emotion, but he just hugged me. Firm, two-handed, no back pats. Then he stepped back and said, "Don't drive through the mountain pass too late." I checked the weather. I nodded. "I'll text you when we hit the interstate." He smirked. "You won't." Megan laughed. "He will," she said, without looking at me. We watched him disappear into the building, guitar case over his shoulder like some coming-of-age cliché that, for once, didn't feel tired. Just right. We got back on the road. The silence in the car was different now. Not tense. Not empty. Just full of things that didn't need to be said. Megan leaned her seat back slightly and took off her boots, folding her legs under her like she always did on long drives. The dashboard clock blinked 4:07 p.m. 20 minutes later, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Read, "No postage." "He gave me this," she said. "Said to wait until we were driving home." I opened it carefully. No glitter. No gimmick. Just a simple Christmas card with pine trees on the front. Inside, Jack had written in blue ink, "Thank you for teaching me that quiet doesn't mean weak. It means strong enough to walk away." I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I did completely. It wasn't about that one Christmas anymore. It wasn't even about the subscriptions or the spreadsheet or the letter I never answered. It was about choosing peace over performance. And watching that decision ripple through a boy who used to think being overlooked meant being invisible. I folded the card once, cleanly, and slipped it into the glove box beside the registration and an old insurance stub. Then I closed it. Not dramatically, not like a scene in a movie, just permanently. Outside, the snowfall thickened. The world was going quiet again in the way I'd grown to love. Not empty, but honest. My phone buzzed in the console. I didn't have to look to know what it was. I tapped the screen. Voicemail from my sister. 42 seconds. No transcript. No preview. I stared at it for half a breath. Then hit delete. No anger. No victory lap. Just a man driving home in peace, with snow on the windshield, a card in the glove box, and nothing left to prove.